Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. That may the divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace.
श्री गदाधर स्तोत्रम। घनचेतनमक्रियम् आदिमजं चिरनिश्चल निर्विरुजम् सुखसङ्गविशुद्ध विबुद्धवरम् सुखसङ्ग विशुद्ध विबुद्धवरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् शतशौरि मुरारि तरङ्गयुतम् अयुतायुत भास्कर कुक्षिकृतम् सुविशाल समुद्र सुभद्रकरम् सुविशाल समुद्र सुदभ्रकरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् क्षुधिराम विराम विलासकरम् छलजिम्हृतकारण कार्यबलम् जितकाञ्चन काम प्रपञ्चहरम् जितकाञ्चन काम प्रपञ्चहरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् युगधर्म प्रवर्तक गुप्तनरं जनपावन गाङ्ग्यतटावसथम् शिशुसौम्यमगम्य प्रणम्य वरम् शिशुसौम्यमगम्य प्रणम्य वरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् शिवकेशववासव सङ्गयुतम् अवतारगरिष्ठमरिष्टरितम् अघमोचन दुष्कृत मुक्तिकरम् अघमोचन दुष्कृत मुक्तिकरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् करुणाघन कर्म कठोरपणम् गुणहीनमपापमशेषगुणम् युगचक्रविवर्तक तर्कहरम् युगचक्रविवर्तक तर्कहरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् शुभबेलुरमन्दिर सन्निहितम् निजशिष्य प्रशिष्य विशेषतरम् शिवमोक्षघनेश्वरम् आदिगुरुम् शिवमोक्षघनेश्वरम् आदिगुरुम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम् प्रणमामि गदाधर ब्रह्मपरम्
I'm reading from the book How to Live with God by Swami Kripamayananda ji. Swami Vivekananda, he says the following about Belur Math. This Math monastery is established to work out one's own liberation and to train oneself to do good to the world in every way, along the lines laid down by Sri Bhagavan Ramakrishna. For want of learning, religious orders become degraded. Therefore, learning should always be cultivated. In the absence of renunciation and austerity, luxury takes possession of the organization. Hence, the spirit of renunciation and austerity should always be kept bright. Propagation of its ideas keeps the vitality of the order strong. Henceforth, you should never cease from preaching work. On 9th December 1898, Belur Math was formally consecrated when Swami Vivekananda installed the Master's relics in the shrine. Swamiji carried the casket of relics on his own shoulder, and on his way to the shrine he said to a disciple, "The Master once told me, I will go and live wherever you take me, carrying me on your shoulder, be it under a tree or in the humblest cottage." With faith in that gracious promise, I myself am now carrying him to the site of our future mutt. Know for certain, my boy, that so long as his name inspires his followers with the ideal of purity, holiness, and charity for all men, even so long shall he, the Master, sanctify this place with his presence. It will be a center in which will be recognized and practiced a grand harmony of all creeds and faiths as exemplified in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, and religion in its universal aspect alone will be preached. And from this center of universal toleration will go forth the shining message of goodwill, peace, and harmony to deluge the whole world. The spiritual impact that has come here to Belur will last 1500 years, and this will be a great university. Do not think I imagine it, I see it. Here, pointing to the Belur Math, I left all my spiritual gems and jewels. You monks, preserve them carefully. Just look after them. Those who will work with these treasures are coming from a great distant place. They will come after 5 or 6 generations. They will enjoy these spiritual treasures. Please preserve them. I sang only the Agamani, a special song related to the advent of Mother Uma. You preserve my message. Listen, Sri Ramakrishna came for the good of this world and gave his life for all human beings. I am also sacrificing my life for them, and all of you will have to do the same. Whatever you see at present in the Ramakrishna mission is just the beginning. As I shed my blood, know for certain that it will produce great heroes and many lion-hearted souls who will work for the Lord, and they will overturn the world in the future. This mutt that we are building will harmonize all creeds, all standpoints. Just as Sri Ramakrishna held highly liberal views, this mutt too will be a center for propagating similar ideas. The blazing light of universal harmony that will emanate from here will flood the whole world. The capable sannyasin children of Sri Ramakrishna, the teacher of the great synthesis of all religions, will be honored everywhere as the teachers of men. The real self-sacrificing sannyasins of the mutt will be the center of the preservation and spread of religious ideas. One spray from the full ocean of his spirituality, if realized, will make gods of men. Such a synthesis of universal ideas you will never find in the history of the world again. To work with undaunted energy, what fear? Who is powerful enough to thwart you? We shall crush the stars to atoms and unhinge the universe. Don't you know who we are? We are the servants of Sri Ramakrishna. Here is it.
Now, time for meditation. Good morning to everyone and welcome to the Sunday service of the Vedanta Society after the winter recess. Last Sunday we had the celebration of Sri Ramakrishna's birthday, and today begin our Sunday service that will happen every Sunday if there is no other celebration. Today's topic is very interesting. It's Ramakrishna Movement-Its creation and growth. Beautiful, the stotras, the hymn was chanted, and the reading was so befitting about the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna and the holiness of Birudmat, from where Swami Vivekananda not imagines, not thinks, but sees that great wave of spirituality, harmony and purity will diffuse not only a part of India or not the whole of India, but the whole of world. So that is the vision of Swami Vivekananda, with which the Ramakrishna mission was started. When we will say Ramakrishna movement began, I would like to say that origin of Ramakrishna movement started with the birth of Sri Ramakrishna in 1836. Sri Ramakrishna's advent had a great purpose of spiritualizing the whole humanity in this seemingly Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is supposed to be people become too worldly, self-centered, and they won't mind doing anything that is improper, unjust. That is the sign of Kali Yuga. To revert all this to the original glory of human soul, Sri Ramakrishna, the power of God came in the form of Sri Ramakrishna. Very humble, speaking in language, rustic language of Bengal village, but so much of spiritual power to manifest, unleashed from that personality. That was the divine plan. And that came in 1836 as a small baby that was born in a village in Kamarpukur. And the glory started seeing from very childhood in various ways that we read in the divine play, the Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, a beautiful voluminous book translated by Swami Chetanananda, originally written by Swami Saradananda ji, a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna's life was, as they say, was the fulfillment of aspiration of 50 crores of people for 500,000. That was the aspiration, got its fulfillment in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Every idea of spirituality was manifested there, without any sectarianism, without any division, suited to all. Sri Ramakrishna is the symbol of harmony of all faiths. Not only faiths, it is the symbol of harmony and universality of all ideas, gender, social status, social division like caste. All those are harmonized in the life and teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. Everyone finds there a niche, a place. That is the Sri Ramakrishna's universality. It is not something, a new thing, new religion starting. It is the evaluating and strengthening all religions, all faiths in their own way. Every religion, if followed properly, would lead the whole humanity to spiritual growth. That Sri Ramakrishna showed in his life through his practice. And Sri Ramakrishna proved that God is real. When there was so much doubt about whether God is there or not, whether spirituality is just a saying of some person's mental, some explanation, God is just a necessity to make the society free from sin, or God is real. So like that question was resolved in the life and practice of Sri Ramakrishna, that God is real and spirituality is real experience. It is not something written in the books just by some thoughtful person that they wrote, that you can feel the oneness with the whole universe. You can go beyond the limitation of your body and mind, beyond the limitation of time and space. You can be one with eternal truth, unchanging, immortal truth. That thing was proved by Sri Ramakrishna through his life, and by following Sri Ramakrishna, people have experienced that. He gave that faith. The authority of scriptures were proved to say they are the real experience, and anybody can experience without any distinction, men or women, Hindus or non-Hindus, anybody, Brahmins, non-Brahmins, Shaivas, Vaishnavites, anyone can experience the truth of scripture, and ultimate reality can be found by any person. So broadly open, Sri Ramakrishna's life opened so easily that you just be sincere and be a seeker, and you will find what Jesus said, seek and ye shall find. That was re-emphasized by Sri Ramakrishna through his life, categorically said, and he emphasized that and trained his band of disciples who proved that spirituality is a matter of experience, not something just to be read and recited, but to be practiced and experienced. There starts the Ramakrishna movement with the advent of Sri Ramakrishna. Originated in 1836 and it was created in 1886. Sri Ramakrishna was aware that a movement should have dedicated core people, a band of people, and he chose 16 of his disciples who would fully focus in the propagation of his teachings, to live his teaching, to propagate his teachings. And for that full devotion, they had to give up everything else. All worldly enjoyment, worldly possessions, worldly relationship, great sacrifice called sannyasa, becoming a monk, renouncing the world and being born to the ideal of Sri Ramakrishna. And during Sri Ramakrishna's life, as you have read, one of Sri Ramakrishna's devotees, Girish Chandra Ghosh, another person, Swami Advaitananda, he became later. So he wanted to give ochre robes to monks who visit Ganga Sagar. He said to Sri Ramakrishna, who was sick, having cancer, was in Kashipur, and he said, I want to go to Ganga Sagar and distribute ochre clothes to sannyasis. Very good idea. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he would have liked that, he should have liked the idea, go and distribute to the monks. But what he said, so amazing is the life of Sri Ramakrishna. He said, why you have to go to find sannyasis there? Here are the sannyasis. Where are the sannyasis? Nobody had taken sannyas. These young boys, you see, they are sannyasis already, though they do not wear the ochre robes of monk. Why don't you give them? So Sri Ramakrishna himself gave of those 12 to 11 of the young attendants of Sri Ramakrishna who were serving Sri Ramakrishna, including Narendranath and Rakhal and all those. And one was left that was given to Girish Ghosh. He was also like a sannyasi. He was a married person, had a very checkered life, but his spirit, his faith, his transformation already happened during Sri Ramakrishna's time. In 4 or 5 years that he met with Sri Ramakrishna, a tremendous change in his life. And he was chosen by Sri Ramakrishna to be given the ochre robe. His inner had become already orange, saffron. So that was 1886. By that he established the order of monks, inspired them. And he said to Swami Vivekananda, I leave this body, but you should see that all these young boys live together. You have to look after them, that they don't go back to their homes. And they form an order of monks. Great responsibility on a person of 25, 26 years of age. Swami Vivekananda, he was born in 1863 and it was in 1886. But Sri Ramakrishna chose him to be the leader of the bands of the young boys who are going to create the fire of that Sri Ramakrishna ideal, so that the posterity, whole humanity could gain that heat and light and illumine themselves. That was the creation of Ramakrishna movement in a more concretized form. But still, monks started living. Other disciples of Sri Ramakrishna didn't approve. Sri Ramakrishna lived a life, go and do japam. Why you have to become monk? He didn't say that only monks. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you will find the reference to monastic life though. He was talking to householders, but surprisingly he was saying the ideals of a monk. Why was that? We would feel, why he was talking that monks should live this, monks should possess nothing, monks should be very pure. Like that thing, why to describe what the monastic life is to the householders? You say what the householders will get peace and spiritual growth. But he now and then will talk about monastic life. Because gospel was not only for householder. Gospel is in time would become equally important for monks and householders. So the reference of what monks should live a life. And that's how this band of monks, as directed by Sri Ramakrishna, did. Householders couldn't understand what was the meaning. Narendranath had fully understood Sri Ramakrishna, whatever maximum he has understood. He says, I also don't know Sri Ramakrishna. He's so great that I also don't know what Sri Ramakrishna is. He is unfathomable. His human life is ununderstandable. I know very little of that. But what I know from him. And whatever he has said, I am doing that. He used to go to the house and bring those boys who had returned by the pressure of their parents. And they became monk. 16 of direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna took monastic vows and started living in a dilapidated house since 1886 and in Baranagar Mutt, in area called Baranagar in Kolkata. And Swami Vivekananda he traveled India and his travelling of India was finding the soul of India. He had this. What is spirituality? He knew fully from Sri Ramakrishna and through his practice of those. He was a dhyana siddha from very birth. He had no doubt about the existence of God. But traveling India, he found the glory and greatness of the soul of India. And he found how the people of India who had been so rich spiritually, culturally, had become so poor and so degraded mentally and full of tamas, no action. That had become our trade. One big writer said, if you go to Calcutta and ask them to give a lecture of how to keep the city clean, there will be 10 people come and they will give fantastic lecture on how to keep the city clean. But if you ask them to work, no one will go and work. Only talking and no working. Intellectually very sharp, ideas galore. But what about action? No action. Fully tamas. Intellectual, that sattva not being presented in rajas. Lack of rajas. Fully immersed in tamas, thinking oneself to be sattvika. That had become our trait. Swami Vivekananda saw that, wanted to hit upon that. And that traveling all over India, sometimes by train and mostly on feet, by walking, was a great lesson that he learned and could reach the soul of India. What India stands for, what India still lives, what is the potentiality of India, what is the glory of India, he all could find in that. And finally, his journey to the West. his manifestation of the power of the Eastern wisdom in Chicago in 1893, admired by the world. That stage was needed. If he had spoken something in India, it would not be heard. Chicago gave such a boost that, oh, India has such great idea, thought, power, culture, religion, spirituality that is all known over the world. And that was what Sri Ramakrishna represented. That he found in every one of the Indian lying deep. Somewhere it is manifested, somewhere deep hidden, but he found that can be roused, has to be roused. And after getting all the glory and recognition and admiration of the people of the West, he goes back to India. People here said, you be a professor, we'll recognize you as the professor in Harvard. Chair they were giving. He was not meant to become a professor. So he goes back, and he knew that his life was meant to propagate and preserve the teaching and message of Sri Ramakrishna. It was such a huge power that has come, it would go in vain, it would be lost perhaps if it is not propagated well. Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda knew that, and he wanted to make an organization for that. He was searching. When he came to the West, he saw many organizations. And our traditional, we don't have any organization, any order of monks. There have been Sankaracharya mutts, but one or two monks lives there. In all 4 centers of Sankaracharya, one Sankaracharya and one his disciple. Sankaracharya will not give sannyasa to other people. Some other will come and give initiation. He will give only to one disciple who would later become Sankaracharya after he passes away. That is the tradition of 4 months. No monastic organization. The devotees gather there. There is worship, there is the preaching, there is spiritual instruction, all there, but no monastic order. In Buddhist time it was there, Christianity it was there, only these two were the monastic order when the monks lived together in a certain place. Swami Vivekananda found that there has to be a monastic core for regeneration of India spiritually. And that was the Ramakrishna movement. In 1897, 1st of May, he started Ramakrishna Mission Association. That was the concretization of the beginning of Ramakrishna movement. And he laid down what the Ramakrishna Mission is for and said, Ramakrishna Mission will be worked upon by both monks and householders. It is not only monastic body, but it is a body of monks and householders working shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand. For what? For 2 purposes. For one's own liberation, spiritual illumination, going deep into the spiritual depth, finding the reality, making the purpose of life fruitful. As Sri Ramakrishna said, purpose of life is to realize God. Nothing else is the purpose of life. Purpose of life is not getting good job or having a nice family or having a nice house. Those are all the means to live. But the real ultimate core purpose of life is to realize God. Realize God means to know the truth. If there is truth beyond this Maya, as it called, to know the truth is the purpose of life. And Swami Vivekananda said that is one goal of the Ramakrishna Mission or Ramakrishna movement. And he said there is another goal, 2 goals. Jagat Hitaya Cha. Not only living for our own spiritual growth, but helping others and making them things, reach them what they need. They need spiritual instruction, they need counseling, they need perhaps food, they perhaps need education, they perhaps need health care, they perhaps need care in the old age. All that has to be made, that's called Jagat Hitaya Cha. When these both are taken for one's own spiritual growth and for service of people, not and helping others, not in the way that philanthropy does. Oh, you are there, I have something to give, I give you something. I am top and you are low, so take that. No, Swami Vivekananda's Jagat Hitaya was going and kneeling down to the person and seeing him or her as manifestation of God, and gracefully and humbly offer him or her the thing they need. This whatever has been said in Taittiriya Upanishad about gifting, about charity. Viyadeyam, Hriyadeyam, Samvidadeyam. You give it humility, you give it a little modesty. That's how the thing should be given, not with arrogance. When it is done that way, it becomes service of God, worship of God. Atmano mokshatham jagat hitaya cha. Where did he get this idea? Worship of God by serving human beings? Again, from Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Vivekananda's life and teachings are nothing but the explanation of the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. He said, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. One should serve the people of life by seeing them as God, not just helping, not with arrogance, but as one worships God with all humility and Shastanga Pranam, and you are the Lord and great, please accept my little offering of fruits and sweets and water. Like that, please accept that I want to give you. That type of attitude of humility Swami Vivekananda introduced. That's called Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva or Jagat Hitaya Cha, with that attitude. He had already formed an organization before even making Ramakrishna Mission Association. Actually, Ramakrishna Mutt, we say it started in 1886 when they started living in Baranagar Mutt. That is the beginning of Ramakrishna Mutt. Monks started, monasteries started. And 1897, Ramakrishna Mission, with the great ideal of Swami Vivekananda as taught by Sri Ramakrishna, whatever he understood from Sri Ramakrishna thing, 1897, he started for the whole humanity, where monks and the devotees will work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder. That was the great ideal which didn't happen earlier. Earlier the monasteries, big monasteries were there where monk is to live, and householder used to just be support to them, and they could give the instruction, but at the core was monastic order in Buddhist time. And in Christianity, the monks were living apart from society, no connection with society. Only Atmano Mokshartham, no Jagathita in Christian monastic system. Those who preach in Christian monastery are priests, not monks. But Swami Vivekananda said, monk giving of life, searching God without doing good to the world is incomplete life. You have to dedicate your life for the sake of others, along with searching the truth, searching God. That's why Ramakrishna movement started. He started organization of Vedanta Society of New York in 1894 itself, after 1 year of his coming to the West. He started Vedanta Society of New York. Later on he started Vedanta Society of San Francisco, now called Vedanta Society of Northern California, in 1900. And we are part of Vedanta Society of Toronto. It began in 1968, and it became a part of Ramakrishna order in 1989. And this Vedanta Society name was given by Swami Vivekananda. So it is a very unique name given. He didn't say here Ramakrishna Mission or Vivekananda Mission, nothing in his name. He said here in the West, the course should be on the principle of spirituality without any personal identification. When people will learn about Vedanta and its principles, then they will try to find out, is there any being that we find these principles manifested? And they will find Sri Ramakrishna. You don't have to say Sri Ramakrishna. That was Swami Vivekananda's ideas. How it started growing. Now, there you find a lot of work in India, lot of work. Their monks and householders, they work tremendously. And in the work abroad, there are few centers few in Europe and North America, and in Africa, Australia. Also, we have few centers. In India, we have lot of works. But after all, such a big country, you cannot really provide the service to all. We say Ramakrishna Mission can make some model works on which the people have to work. Either the government or the society or the people have to work. Then only the alleviation of Indian growth will happen. So in India there are 12 full-fledged hospitals and 19 dispensaries. There are 57 mobile medical units, and there are 5 nursing schools all over India that Ramakrishna Mission is running. We have work not only in the hospital sector, but our main work is in educational sector. We have one university, it's now called deemed university, called Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda University at Belur. And we have many colleges and hundreds of schools all over India. And all colleges and schools they have kept the standard. They are like the ideal educational institutes of India. In the way the students are produced, the academic, the results are found. We have not only educational institutes right from primary to the university level, but we have agricultural institutes, seeing the rural world. India lives in villages, and there is a lot to be given agriculturally. And we have many agricultural institutes. Publication centers, because the ideas have to be disseminated, not only work, it has to come, the idea of philosophy, all that has to be disseminated. So we have publication centers almost in every state of India. Also we have one blind boys school in Narendrapur in West Bengal, it's quite famous. There are orphanages too, orphanages for old age homes in West Bengal, in Benares, in many places, in other places also we have orphanages. And also orphanages in many other for the children, and old age homes for Benares, Kankal and all those places, old age homes. The growth of the Vedanta movement is, there are now 175 centers in India. So those of us who are now senior, they know how just a few years ago it used to be like 100 centers. Now there are 175 centers in India. Our lifetime, in 50 years, we are seeing that. And 55 centers abroad. So there are 230, it is the last year's report. This year it might have grown about 240. There have been many demand for the organizations to associate with the Ramakrishna movement. We don't have enough number of monks to send. We are not able to do that. That's why we made one Bhava Prachar Parishad. One body, we look after the work of private centers and how they are running, whether to follow the ideal or not. Swami Vivekananda, when he founded the Belur Math, as it was read, Belur Math was founded on 9th December 1898. Swami Vivekananda said, Sri Ramakrishna said to me at Kashipur, wherever you will take me on your shoulders, there I will go and stay, be it under a tree or in a hut. It is therefore that I am myself carrying him, his remains, on my shoulders to the new Math with Belur Math, grounds. Know it for certain that Sri Ramakrishna will keep his seat fixed here for the welfare of many for a long time to come. Each devotee colors Sri Ramakrishna in the light of his own understanding, and each forms his own idea of him from his peculiar standpoint. He was, as it were, a great sun, and each one of us is eyeing him, as it were, through a different kind of colored glass, and coming to look upon that one sun as particular. This math that we are building will harmonize all creeds, all standpoints. Just as Sri Ramakrishna held highly liberal views, this math will be a center for propagating similar ideas. The blazing light of universal harmony that will emanate from here will flood the whole world. Through the will of Sri Ramakrishna, a Dharma Kshetra, sanctified spot, has been established today. Do you know what I am thinking of at this moment? This math will be a center of learning and spiritual discipline. Householders of a virtuous turn like yourself will build houses on the surrounding land and live there. And sannyasins, men of renunciation, will live in the center. While on that plot of land on the south of the mud, buildings will be erected for English and American disciples to live in. Everything will come about in time. I am but laying the foundation. There will be lots of further development in future. Some portion of it I shall live to work out, said Swami Vivekananda on 9 December 1898 when he founded the Belur Math. Ramakrishna movement is growing, but we have not seen its full growth, just the beginning, not even 200 years. So all other religious ideas growth, you see, after 500 years. At least it takes that time to have that. In 200 years, it has grown so much that was not done by any other missionary, like not even the Christians, not even the Buddhists. So growth is enormous. We find impact in the West little, but it is for the thinking mind. There are many people associated. There are many people who may not visit the Vedanta society, but they admire and like the broad ideals and ideas of Sri Ramakrishna movement, of Sri Ramakrishna, influenced by that. Many people know about Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, and get inspiration from them to work in life and find peace and joy in life by following those ideas. So unseen, but definitely there is the percolation of the Ramakrishna ideal, of the Ramakrishna movement. What is the uniqueness of Ramakrishna movement? There have been Buddhist movement, Christian movement, there have been Islamic movement. What is the uniqueness? All tried to mold wherever they went in their own thoughts. That you have to follow this much, not going beyond that. But Ramakrishna movement is a very unique type of movement. It accepts all faiths and valid path for spiritual growth. It is universal, not because all have to come and melt in it, but because all are set free to follow their own path sincerely. You follow your own path of spiritual instruction, your own faith, your own religion sincerely, and that you will be spiritually enlightened. That is the message of Sri Ramakrishna. That's how it is universal. That's why every religion finds their harmony with the ideal of Sri Ramakrishna. When you are asked that you can pray in your own way, then everyone will say it's a great ideal. Ramakrishna movement respects prophets of all religions. We admire and respect and worship all prophets. Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Guru Nanak, Zarathustra, all we respect and adore and try to get from them the great thing that we can practice in life from their teachings. Guru Nanak said, Naam Jap, Kirat Kar, Vanchak. So beautiful message that we can inculcate. As a Vedantist, we can inculcate. Repeat the name of God. Work hard and work sincerely. And share your produce and your whatever you possess and earning. Don't keep, maybe spiritual, maybe financial, maybe otherwise. Don't be self-centered. Live for the society. Look after the society. Then only you are going to be spiritual. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said similar. Repeat the name of God. Be dilute in the name of God. That is the core of life. And Trinadapi Suni Jena Taru Rapi Sahishnuna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Be humbler than the blade of grass. Everybody tramples, doesn't mind. And be strong like a big tree. Tarora Visheshuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Don't seek any honor for yourself, but give honor to everyone. Great teaching. Vedanta welcomes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the incarnation of God and follow the teachings. That's how this Vedanta, as understood by and practiced by Ramakrishna movement, it accepts and respects all great prophets and incarnations. And Vedanta movement, this Ramakrishna movement, admires saints in all traditions as spiritually advanced souls who conquered the weakness of the body and mind and asserted the strength and beauty of the soul. All worked hard, all are honorable and respectable. That is the beauty of Ramakrishna movement, to honor all. With Ramakrishna movement, as Swami you heard in the reading, it believes in equality and equanimity. It tries to harmonize every part of the society, every gender, every strata of the society, and all have place in the Ramakrishna order. Not only for particularly learned people, or belonging to particular caste, or belonging to particular education, or belonging to particular lineage, nothing like that. It is for everyone, equal for everyone. Not only people of origin of Hindus, but Ramakrishna Vedanta, this Ramakrishna movement for everyone, though you may be born in Africa or in China or Australia, wherever you belong to, whatever your skin color, whatever your language and culture and ethnicity, you are equal. We all treat equally. That is the status what a follower of Ramakrishna movement will do. Treating everyone as their equal. And being established in equanimity through practice, not being too much wavering by little suggestion from outside. Being established in equanimity as taught by Sri Krishna in the Gita. In the Ramakrishna movement, monks and householders work hand in hand to uplift the society. How to uplift? Physically, culturally, and spiritually. Ramakrishna movement has another unique feature. No humbug with political power, and yet respecting the law of the land and the chosen political leaders. We respect them and we treat them as we should treat the leader of the society, leader of the government, but we don't have any aspiration to have an influence in the polity of the society, that some influence to some political leaders. We don't align to any political party, anywhere. We are free from political alignment. That is what Swami Vivekananda said. God alone is my politics, he said. I have no connection with any polity. So that is very unique of Ramakrishna order. Motto of life of the Ramakrishna movement is renunciation and service. What does that mean? That means individual spiritual growth and helping others through service as worship of God. Ramakrishna movement doesn't believe in conversion, not displacing people from their rituals that they have been practicing. So followers of Ramakrishna mission have no set rituals. Oh, Ramakrishna, you belong to Ramakrishna mission, so you will be eating this way, living this way, sleeping this way, your birth will have this ceremony, your death will have that ceremony. No, we have nothing like that. Everyone that has been practicing is free to practice their own ritual, according to their own faith, according to their own practice through generations. That is the universality of the Ramakrishna order. This Ramakrishna movement began with the birth of Sri Ramakrishna, and by his own work, how he started the Ramakrishna order of monks, And Swami Vivekananda then finally gave the shape and gave the motto and gave the teachings what the ideal it is and what the followers of Ramakrishna movement, Ramakrishna orders should do. So one is purity of life. Purity of life means loving all without any consideration. That is one sign of purity of life. Purity of life is not being too much world-centered, getting the things that I want this to enjoy, I want that to enjoy. There is higher things to enjoy, making yourself more spiritually aware and uplifted. That is a sign of purity of life. Purity of life is doing the things that we should do. Purity of life means controlling our passions. Purity of life is not being selfish, but centered in others, thinking about others. Purity of life means praying to God not only for your own spiritual upliftment, but for the good of others. Purity of life means to pray to God, as Sri Ramakrishna said, may I not find fault with others, may I not judge others, may I not think that other person is wrong or different. Let them be tackled by God. Purity of life means faith in God and faith in His guidance to the people. Purity of life means faith in human beings. That makes the life pure. This having the purity of life is one of the sign of Ramakrishna movement, that its follower will be living pure life. The followers of Ramakrishna mission should not be only self-centered. They should outreach the others when in need and be friendly to all, smile and talk with all, and feel that everyone is welcome in your life. If that is very important, Holy Mother emphasized, Sri Ramakrishna said, always pray besides your spiritual prayer that may I not find fault with others. Finding fault keeps you frustrated, sad, and that is very wrong ideation of your own thing and a sign of great ego. Purity will sublimate our ego, make our ego not boost up, but become sublime, and that brings the sweetness in us. Purity of life is making our ego into from kacha ami to paka ami, from raw I to ripened I. Like the raw fruit to ripe fruit, like that. This transformation happens if we start treating others as Swami Vivekananda said, not as something different from me, not as something other from me, but as God, something out of respect. Our movement, talk, feeling, thought for others should be respectful. That as when Swami Vivekananda says, I have been seeing God throughout my life, and I have been seeing God whom ignorant call man. Human being is a form of God. That is the ideal that Ramakrishna followers should live up to. That I am seeing God in every person. That is the highest ideal. When I see any face, I am seeing the face of God. I am seeing the face of Sri Ramakrishna or Krishna or Jesus, whomever you feel your Ishta. That makes you humble to the level you can understand, respectful for others, and you yourself feel yourself with joy, and that becomes a ripened ego, sweet, soft, and amiable and acceptable by all. That makes your life sweet, and that you become sweet to whole society. That is where Ramakrishna movement wants to take all human beings through the process of renunciation and service. Renunciation is not to be afraid, give up everything and don ochre robes. That is not the renunciation. Renunciation is don't be attached to the worldly things. Don't be egoistic. Be friendly to all, treat everyone other as friend, and don't be attached to the things of the world. Have higher values, as they used to say, great thinking and simple living. That is what renunciation is. Not to be involved in the things of the world. And by that way, you renounce the attachment to the things and possession, and then you become service to others. That renunciation will automatically happen when we are devoted to our East, our God. Prayer, meditation, Naam Jap, that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what Guru Nanak said, what every prophet says. Remember God always. That is the thing. That will make our life sweet, and we become, by following all that, we become a true follower of the Ramakrishna movement, which will strengthen not only our being, but will strengthen the movement itself. That every part of the Ramakrishna movement, every follower of the Ramakrishna mission, if they live an exemplary life, then the Ramakrishna movement, whether it may have few followers, still it become very strong and becoming light to the society, seeing that, oh, they are the followers of the Ramakrishna mission. That we should do. People often learn by seeing others than by hearing others. So our life should be exemplary to our own children, to our neighbors, to our others in society. That type of life gives the real joy of living and leads us towards spirituality. Ultimate goal, realization of truth, realization of God. Otherwise, human life will be spent useless. And Sri Ramakrishna said, how can we realize God? It's so tough to have the vision of God, to know the truth, to have Brahma Jnana. Not in this life perhaps, I'm getting old. Sri Ramakrishna said, what are you saying? It is possible for everyone. Begin today. That faith, Sri Ramakrishna. One poet wrote about Sri Ramakrishna's eyes. When I look at Sri Ramakrishna's eyes, one message comes. Tui parbi toke partai habe. In Bengali writer he said, you can do, you will have to do. That is the eyes of Sri Ramakrishna says. May Sri Ramakrishna, Mother, Swamiji, all guide and inspire us to achieve the goal of life, what they have set forth for us, what they have shown to us. That is my prayer to Thakur Swamiji, Buddha and Jesus, whom we adore and worship every day in the Vedanta Society of Toronto. Thank you very much. So, thank you all for joining in person and online. And today we had in person. Next week I am not in Toronto. I am visiting in Western Canada, and the Vedanta societies in Vancouver, Edmonton and Calgary. Next Sunday I will be in Calgary, so I'll give online class from Calgary. We will not have in-person class next Sunday, but please be tuned from 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight Saving Time from today, EDT, no more EST for a few months. So EDT at 11 o'clock, and I'm just looking at the camera next week and seeing my own photo there and thinking that people are listening. I love to talk in that way, imagining that. Seeing yourself, you'll have to imagine, oh, there will be Manish there will be Arun Majumdar there will be so many other, there will be Ritu Saxena there, all that I have to imagine. But today, so nice to see you all. Thank you very much for attending the class. After the class, closing chant, we'll after closing chant, we'll have one collection, and then we'll go upstairs for prasad. Thank you so much. Now the closing chants. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Jai Mahamai Ki Jai. Jai Swami Ji Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Buddha Ki Jai. Jai Isha Musha Ki Jai. Sarvastaratu Durgani Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu Sarvasad Buddhimapnotu Sarvas Sarvatra Nandatu. Hari Om Tat Sat. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere.